just coming up towards the end of the boil. You can see here I've just got my immersion chiller in here sanitizing. And what we're going to do is at the end of the boil, got a minute to go, I'm actually just going to run and link it outside and start the chilling process. And I want to get this down to about 40 degrees. So once it's chilled and is showing me about 40 degrees, I'll stop the chiller and bring it back inside, and we'll take it to the next step. Here we are, guys, so all chilled down to 38. I've actually got the grandfather set, as you can see here, hopefully at 36. So I just want it between 35 to 40 degrees, so 36 somewhere in the middle. You can see it's got up to 38 and the work light has turned itself off. This is the ideal temperature that the lactobacillus will be able to sour the wort. So what I'm going to do first, and one of the things that is always recommended, is trying to reduce the amount of movement and oxygen. Obviously lactobacillus will devour that oxygen, but it also will use it to form other forms of microbes and things that you don't really want in here. So I'm actually going to put a blanket down of CO2 using my keg, which is just one of those advised practices to do to help limit the amount of nasties or microbes you might get in here. So just running, you probably can't quite see, but just running the CO2 line out of my kegs and just running it in through underneath of CO2 underneath there. And now really simply using the IBS support tablets that I've had out just at room temp, just going to open them up and sprinkle them in onto the top of the wort. So hitting 4.3, I've just taken a wee sample of the wort, and oh, it's just changing a little bit now, it's going up, but 4.3, a little bit lower. I'm aiming for 4.5, but hey, that'll do. We'll see how this one goes. The last thing to do now, as you can see, I've started the process of just sealing this bad boy up. I'm actually going to provide a layer of Glad wrap actually on the inside. I'm going to add a little bit more CO2 just to, you know, really finish off that blanket of CO2 inside. Just because I've been using the wee sample there, the pipette, to take some samples. So I'm just going to put in a little bit more of a blanket of CO2 inside, and then tuck it into bed with a little bit of Glad wrap. This can be the tricky bit, fellas, of actually just getting that Glad wrap on, but if you just keep playing around and tweaking with it, just forcing all the oxygen out as you're doing it, you can see you get the odd bubble in there, but as long as you're getting the majority of the oxygen out of there, she's going to be fine. There we have it, fellas. Put a bit more CO2 on top and then tuck her in and come and check on it in 24 hours. So this time tomorrow I'm going to come in and do another pH reading and see where we're at with the acidity. Back for day 2. The Kettle sour Gose has been sitting down here for just under 24 hours, and I'm keen to get a pH sample just because we're getting close to that 24-hour mark. I just want to kind of see if we've had any action with the lactobacillus. So, as I'm going to do now, I'm using a sanitized little pipette. I can take a sample, calibrate my pH meter again, and record to see how we're going after 24 hours. So let's go ahead and do this right now, and we'll see how the results come out after 24 hours. Always good to leave yourself a little gap here just to be able to run some samples out, and just using this little container. Right, can't quite see as I'm spilling the sample, but we're down to 3.8, so definitely having some action. Pretty loose sample, but as you can see there, 3.8. So just pulling it from that sample there, 3.8, so definitely some activity happening. I was close to, was it 4.4 pH pre-acidifying, so really happy with that. So I know that there's stuff going on. I really want to aim for 3.5 pH, so I'm actually going to leave it, hopefully continue to do its thing, and then tonight, getting closer over that 24-hour mark, I'll come back in tonight and hopefully getting something close to 3.5. Timing is quite crucial here because I want to be able to do it before the weekend, because we're actually heading away, so nothing like a bit of pressure to put me under to try and get this bed done. Worst case scenario, it's going to be an early morning tomorrow morning to get up early and do the boil, and it's a 60-minute boil, but just getting it all scrubbed out and then pitching the yeast before we head away tomorrow morning. So fingers crossed that I come back tonight and we're getting the pH meter reading that I'm wanting, and we'll get it all done and dusted then. Welcome back. It's just over 30 hours now for the souring process, and I've actually just got home from a couple of sodas. Oh. So I'm actually just going to do a quick runnings now and check, and tonight, even though it's going to be a late one, I'm actually maybe going to scrub this one up and boil it off for the hour that I need to. So I'm quickly going to come over here and check the pH, so let's have a look. We're on the money. We're at 3.5, so definitely been doing its thing, and down to that level of acidity that I'm looking for. So we're into it, fellas. I'm actually going to flick this on now and get it up to the boil as quickly as I can. It is going to be a late one, but it needs to be done now because we're away tomorrow, so I actually need to get this one boiled up and put into the fermenter tonight. So without further ado, I'm actually going to switch this one on and get it going. So obviously bringing it up to the boil is going to kill off the lactobacillus. It's going to create an environment that it's not going to like, and ultimately the lacto will die. Which is what we want, because we don't want anything lingering in the fermenter or in the grain father that might contaminate further batches. So just going to get this one as quickly as we can up to the boil, doing a 60-minute boil, and we'll be adding a little bit of coriander in the end of the boil and also a little bit of salt in the end of the boil, just to match those guidelines of the Gose. Having a wee taste of the sample that I just took. Definitely getting some acidity around the sides of your tongue. Obviously picking up the level of acidity in there. Be careful if you're just doing it by taste. It can be really hard to detect because the water is still very sweet. Now obviously the yeast that we're using to ferment the rest of the beer is gonna, it's gonna demolish all of that sugars. So be really careful when you're tasting your sampler. Even though it tastes quite sweet, the acidity is low, and that's why it's really crucial to use a pH meter to actually detect the pH there, because it can be quite hard to tell. So yeah, even though it tastes sweet, it is going to be sour, so just believe in your pH meter and everything will work out alright. Alright guys, coming up to the end of the boil. Customary salt. This is just a Himalayan rock salt that I had sitting in the pantry, so I'm using close to 20 grams of that, which I'm going to put in last minute of the boil. And this is just some coriander seeds. I'm actually going to do something a little bit different, and I'm actually going to put these straight into the fermenter with the beer. So a little bit different, but just trying to get a little bit more of a fermentation steep with the coriander rather than putting it into the end of the boil. I have my decanted starter here ready to go, so I've actually just managed to get this going as you saw a few days before, and just decanted off the rest of the liquid and just got the yeast. And also I'll be putting in, I'll be using 2 packets of USO5 as well on top of the SAC Bruxellalis Trois yeast, which is in here. And end of the boil's coming up. You can see I've just been sanitizing my immersion chiller, and I also added in a wheel flock tablet and some yeast nutrient as well, just to help that healthy yeast get going. Looking like we're on the money here, chaps, with gravity reading aiming for 1044 and sneak in there for, we're at about 1045, so pretty happy with that considering the volume we've got and the boil time. I've done a really great job here to max out the volume on this, up and over 25 litres, so really happy with that. The last thing to do is to add some oxygen into here, which I'm going to do with my mash paddle and drill as per the usual, and then chuck the yeast and coriander in and tuck her into bed. And the chamber's already been set for that one, set to 18. Whew, there we go, guys. Probably the art that I haven't quite mastered is the timing for the kettle souring phase. You know, that 24, 30, 36 hours that you need to let it sour. It's kind of got me stumped a little bit, but because I'm away as well, it's really put me under those time constraints, which, hey, getting used to. So just before 1 AM I think here in the mighty New Zealand, so definitely time to rest the head and to go to bed. I've had a really quick tidy up. This one's coming down to temp, and I'm just about to pitch the yeast and actually dry hop with the dry coriander with the seeds rather than adding them into the boil. Really just looking for a subtle flavour coming through with the coriander, nothing too dominant, so that's why I'm going down that track with giving that a go this time. So stay tuned. Over the days as it ferments, I'll keep you posted and we'll do another short update, so stay tuned for me.